That is me. That is a wall. So why am I sitting on the edge of my bed, seemingly attempting to shoot lasers out of my eyes and break down the wall?
Well, that is exactly what we're going to get into today on episode 9 of Fired to Acquired. With a bit of a slow news week at Mattress.ai and Freedom Mattress, I wanted to take this vlog to go into the psychology of the gut punch of getting fired, surprisingly, to switching the mindset to how can I be successful in a new way. If you know anyone who is in any sort of situation like this and could benefit from this video, please like this for visibility and also consider sharing this with that person to hopefully help them switch their mindset. Let's get into the story. So the morning of June 5th, I woke up at 3 a.m. because I had meetings with some dentists in Chicago at 10 a.m. And I went through my normal routine when I do this. So I went to the bathroom, I started to check my email. And at 3 a.m. I saw a surprise email waiting for me from my boss that said, "Don't leave for Chicago until our meeting with the head of sales." So I didn't know about a meeting with the head of sales until I went over to my calendar and saw that I had a meeting scheduled at 8 a.m. with my boss and also the head of sales. This was very surprising given that my boss knew how hard I'd worked for these meetings that I had just 5 hours, and me waiting in St. Louis before those meetings was going to totally nuke those plans. While you might find this hard to believe, getting fired was nowhere on my mind. While I had been struggling to get the results that I expected out of myself, I'd been receiving a lot of good compliments from the team, and everyone had been really encouraging and complimentary, and even the higher-ups at the organization seemed genuinely thrilled with what I brought to the table. In my mind, I was up for either a lateral move, a strategic repositioning, something where they could use my talents and abilities in a different place in the organization. Little did I know, I was up for a surprise. So the Zoom meeting at 8 came and went, and after it, surprised I was. After a hug from my wife, I headed upstairs to my room to think. My kids hadn't even left the house for summer camp yet, so they were still buzzing around, and I was trying to keep my face cool for them. But my wife was really taking care of everything because she expected me to be gone to Chicago already. So I left her with the kids, and I sat on the bed, and I thought really hard. I went deep into my mind and was thinking very deeply about my self-image. To be completely honest with you guys, I was nervous about myself and my emotional state, but then also, if that spun out of control, how would that affect my family and all my responsibilities? If I crumble or spiral out of control or go to booze and alcohol or other bad habits, the life that my family has come to know will be no more. But I knew all of this was dependent on my self-image. So as I was sitting there thinking, and all these negative voices were buzzing through my head. How could you lose this job, Blake? How could you get fired? How could you be unsuccessful? You're dumb, Blake. You failed, Blake. Everyone was counting on you and you lost it. You're a loser. All these thoughts were raiding my brain. So very early in my sales career, I would walk into stores, mostly furniture stores, but also some auto repair, tire stores, and sometimes people would be very rude to me. And sometimes it would really impact my self-image to the point where I would take a couple hours and go get coffee and stare off into the distance and think about how big of a loser I was for having this sales job. So I found this book. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and over the years it's been used as a bit of a sales book, and the general principle of it is if your self-image is correct and you believe in the product you're selling, the rest will take care of itself. So when I read the book a few years ago, I figured out a certain mantra to program my self-image for success. Personally, my biggest takeaway from the book is that you have to program your self-image on things that are unchanging. So if you think that you're great because of a car that you have or a house that you have, the car can crash, the house can burn down, and then what? So my self-image mantra, if you will, is very simple. It's 2 parts. Part 1 is God is real and he loves you. So that's what I tell myself. Now, I'm someone who doesn't just take a claim like that at face value. I need evidence, which leads me to part 2 of my self-image mantra. God sent one of his greatest creations from across the world to be your partner, to help you be successful. Referring to, obviously, my wife and life partner. Now, obviously that mantra might not work perfectly for you, and for me, this mantra almost always leads me back to a path of being grateful, productive, and excited about the world that I have. Now, on the morning of June 5th, sitting on the edge of my bed, it did take about 15 or 20 reps of that mantra to get all those evasive, negative voices out of my head. But by noon, I was myself again, and I was ready to start planning for the next steps. So much so that some of those leads, some of those people that I had been talking to had called me and said, hey, we would like to sign up for your service. And I forwarded them to the boss who had just fired me and said, hey, these people would like to get signed up now. I would like to take a beat here to recognize something obvious, and that is that there are things much, much, much worse in the world than getting fired. So you might be sitting there saying, but Blake, thinking can't possibly help out of my situation. My situation is much worse than getting fired. And you're probably right. There are tons of things that are much, much worse than getting fired. But I would challenge you to read a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You can't get a worse situation than what Viktor Frankl was in. I don't want to get into it on this vlog, but it's as bad as a situation can possibly be. And he worked through the situation, survived, and then later on thrived merely through the power of his thoughts. So please, if you're not convinced by this vlog that the power of thoughts and positive thinking can get you out of really negative situations, read The Man's Search for Meaning. All right, guys, thank you for sticking around all the way to the end. I know this one was a little bit different. Normally we do updates about what's going on with the businesses, but I felt compelled to share this part of the story before we move on. For those of you who might be in similar situations, hopefully this helps. Expect next time big updates on mattress.ai as well as Freedom Mattress. See you on the next one. Bye.